It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kick-start it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses of all ages, welcome to the show. It is Monday, September 15th, 2025, and it's time to get nerdy. Welcome to a short episode of Two Nerds in a Pod. I am, of course, one of your hosts, Mac, and I would normally be joined by my co-host, Mr. Nice Guy. We know him, we love him, and we enjoy hearing from him every week. Unfortunately, Mr. Nice Guy is under the weather and will not be able to join us, and it seems a pity to do the whole show without him, so I'll just share a couple of things. One is that the next episode will be episode 355, naturally. But 355 is going to be a sound test episode, and we are going to sunset the mystery sound from episode 315. So, between now and next week is your last chance to identify that mystery sound from episode 315 and to let us know what your guess is as to its origin. And if you guess correctly, we've got a gift for you. So let us know. Last chance. And you know what? Just to give you a heads up, I'll go ahead and include it right here. All right, so get on it. In the meantime, just wanted to bring you a little something interesting, a legalese morsel, if you will. And that's in a case called Sony v. Cox Communications. Now, a few weeks back, we talked about a Capstone Studios v. Cox Communications, and a loophole that got closed that for quite a long time had allowed just anyone who claimed that their intellectual property had been infringed to get your personal information from your ISP with just the right form. Now, that may be the end of that story, that loophole, but Foxconn returns in a different case for today. So a few years back, we saw a case that came out of the Fourth Circuit of the United States, which covers the two Virginias, the two Carolinas, and Maryland. That's the Fourth Circuit. Now, it also involved IP holders, specifically Sony Music, who said that the internet service provider Cox was not doing enough to combat the piracy of their music. And while it is slightly more complicated, not really by much, because the issue here turned on if Cox Communications, who did not have a policy for combating repeat pirates, was doing their duty to prevent piracy via their service. Way back when we were building out the law around the turn of the century to account for the internet, one of the things that was established was that service providers and websites would enjoy a degree of protection from prosecution because we don't want them to be on the hook for the bad things that an individual might do using your tools. As a result, websites don't have to fact-check your blog posts and so on. At least that was the idea. Now, in 2019, Sony was able to convince a jury that Cox should be on the hook for $1 billion for not kicking repeated pirates off of the high seas. And then last year, yes, I know, law takes forever, the Fourth Circuit listened to the appeal, and on the one side, Sony says, "We sent thousands of infringement notices and no one's been kicked off the internet." And on the other side, Cox says, "We don't kick people off the internet just because these guys say that they're thieves." And the Fourth Circuit decided that Coxcom needed to do something, and didn't. But $1 billion was way too much for a company whose only sin here was not banning people hard enough. Or at all, for that matter. Just wasn't enough. Well, now, the US Supreme Court has decided that they want to get involved, and they've agreed to take on the case. They've issued certiorari. That's basically where they say, yeah, we'll do full briefing on this. And they've asked for briefing to be focused on 3 questions. Question 1, does the internet service provider bear some responsibility, they call it contributorial liability, for not kicking customers that are suspected of piracy? That's question 1. Question 2, does a passive not kicking pirates policy constitute willful participation in it? Now, this is an important question, of course, because in the law, willful behavior is often a very important consideration in things like damages and so on. Some things are strict liability torts, which it doesn't matter what your intention were or what you knew. It was just that you infringed. It was a problem. We talk about that in our good faith purchase breakdown. You can go check that out if you want to hear more about what constitutes that. And 3, the third question, do you have to directly financially benefit from the piracy in order for that to be a contributorial liability? Now, not only did the Supreme Court say that they want to receive briefings on this, they said that they welcomed other people who aren't part of this, the two parties, Sony on one hand and Cox Communications on the other. They welcomed other people to submit their briefs. They call them amicus briefs. That means friend of the court. And they said, hey, if you feel like you've got a stake in this, let us know and give us your feedback on what you think of these questions. And a lot of people have answered the call. We've got a whole range of people. We've got internet-related companies like ISPs, of course. We have tech companies like Google and Amazon, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, have all weighed in, most of these on the side of Cox Communications, and a couple on the side of Sony. Now, you know me. I'm not going to cry any tears over the poor ISPs. These are, after all, the companies who accepted billions of taxpayer dollars in the 2000s to specifically build out broadband internet and proceeded to do absolutely none of that. But I do tend to lean towards strong safe harbors so that fools like you, me, and Lam can say what we want and where we want and only need to be worried about the shame from our fellow internet citizens, and maybe the occasional lawsuit directed specifically at us, rather than the platforms or the ISPs themselves shutting us down. So that's about as radical as I'm going to get on this. But Mr. Nice Guy and I will obviously be talking more about it as it progresses, and as it gets heard, we will see what comes of it. And that's just a little something, a little legalese snack to tide you over until we come to your podcast feed next week. But in the meantime, remember to be excellent to each other and keep it nerdy. Bye.